A compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
Mangalik El. My forefathers, Bumyn-khagan and Istemi-khagan, became the rulers of people. They started ruling, formed El, which was a state, and made it the law of the Turkic peoples. Inscription on the monument of Kyul-Tegin. It is the monumental manifesto to the eternal El idea. There are uneven inscriptions on the stone, which is a reconstruction of the unique monument of the Turkic history. It is the Kyul-Tegin obelisk. The original is in Mongolia. It's the stone of Kyul-Tegin. You get surprised that people could write such things in the past. Does it make sense? This edification is tremendous. There are words of edification and beholder's rear accounts in one of the most interesting written sources. It is Menander Protector's Byzantine Chronicle, saying about the might of the Turkic state. It's the only one story from the history of the eternal El. The conception of the Turkic state goes back to old times. The Turkic people's spatial thinking was its great strength, which has always helped to maintain the Turkic culture. In the 6th century, the European world had long been discovered. Chapter 1. The Great Steppe Country. The First Turkic Empire was part of the system of political and economic relations between Byzantium, Iran and China. In the heyday of the Turkic Empire, it stretched from Manchuria to the Gulf of Kerch and from the Yenisei River to the Amur Darya. Thus, Turkic Khagans became founders of the first Eurasian empires. From In the Stream of History book by Nur-Sultan Nazarbayev. They were the founders of the empire, which would not only be always remembered, but would also give the Turk name to the peoples. It started with the Great Migration. The majority of the Huns moved to the west, and the Ruran Khaganate became the ruler of the tribes remaining in Altai. The Turkic peoples worked iron. They paid tributes in iron to the Ruran Huns until 552. The situation changed completely over 3 years. The Turkic people revolted, conquered the Ruran Khaganate, and formed their state. The basis for it was formed and waited in the right moment for a long time. We can say it was like a political storm when the Turk ethnonym appeared and became widespread. Bumyn, great Yabu of the Turkic people, was raised in the white felt and became the Khagan of the huge empire. His dynasty maintained the domination of the Turkic peoples in Central Asia and southern Siberia. The Chinese emperors paid tribute to them. From In the Stream of History book by Nur-Sultan Nazarbayev. They were raised so that the heavens blessed them and recognized their right to rule people. What does ruling people mean? It isn't so easy, is it? One should be worthy of having such a right. It was Bumyn-khagan who made his state eternal El. After his death, the country was divided into two parts. His son Mukhan was given the eastern part, in the area of present-day Mongolia. Bumyn's younger brother, Istemi, became the head of the western part of the state. It included Jungaria and the valleys of the Ili, Chu, and Talas rivers. They had the right of conducting diplomatic relations with other countries without getting the Eastern Turkic people's permission. It was a feature similar to the federal principle. Yabgu was Istemi-khagan's title. The Byzantine historian Menander Protector called him Dizabul. The runic alphabet was created on Istemi-khagan's order. It was necessary for developing international relations, in particular for conducting complicated diplomatic negotiations with Byzantium. from In the Stream of History book by Nur Sultan Nazarbayev. The first writings were done using the Sogdian alphabet, and afterwards the Turkic peoples created their own alphabet.
А потом тюрки изобрели собственный алфавит.
Istemi-khagan was actively engaged in foreign policy. He sent one of the embassy caravans to Byzantium, which was historical successor to ancient Rome. Sogdian merchant Menander headed the Turkic embassy. The name of one of the first Sogdian agents was Mani-Yaho. He was Manichae, which literally meant brother Mani. He was a Sogdian very close to the Turkic Khagans. He carried out diplomatic and trade functions. Menader's caravan first went along the Sirdarya River from Semiresha to the Aral Sea region. Then it moved across Mangastal, along the Caspian embankment, and across the Caucasian ridge. The Turkic peoples fought against the Sasanian Iran, which is why they couldn't go across Iran. Then he was the first who paved the way around Iran. Chapter 2, Khan Shakir. Byzantium was mighty and rich. Justinian I even wanted to cover marble walls with gold, but the advisors dissuaded him from doing it. Anyway, 2 annual budgets of the country were spent on the construction of the Hagia Sophia. The Turkic ambassadors headed by Menander were amazed when they saw the cathedral. However, it turned out that they could not be amazed by gold. The embassy arrived in Byzantium in 568, and the Byzantine emperor welcomed them. The king asked the ambassadors about the country and the dominions of the Turkic people. They said that the peoples are divided into 4 dominions, and that Dizabul ruled all of them. The ambassadors said the number of tribes ruled by the Turkic peoples, and finally asked the emperor to enter into alliance with them. Menander Protector. Byzantine embassy headed by Commander Zimar went on a long journey. Menander and Turkic merchants accompanied the Byzantine ambassador. It is unknown whether the historian Menander was with them too. He did not mention that, but wrote he had witnessed all the events. Most likely he used the reports written by the embassy.
Благодаря этим послам мы какие-то куски.
Thanks to these ambassadors, we know some pieces of information about the period of Central Asia. This information is about the food, lifestyle, government, administrative system, and the Turkic Khaganate itself.
Какое правительство было там, административная система, сам Кхаган тюркского Кхаганата.
Scientists don't know exactly where the first meeting took place. However, according to Menander, they prepared properly for the visit of ambassadors' caravan. When they arrived in the country and dismounted from their horses, the Turkic people, who had probably been sent there on purpose, offered them to buy iron. I think they did it to show the Roman people that they mined iron ores in the country. Usually it's said they had problems with mining iron. Menander Protector. Menander described clearly how the Turkic people met the ambassador of the Roman Empire and how they went through 2 fires and underwent purification.
Проходили через вот эти вот 2 полена огня, да, ну вот слой, столпа огня, очищали.
Turkic shamans put on all the things which the Byzantines had brought. Menander called the Byzantines Romans. They made a fire using Lebanon branches. Most likely they were cedar of Lebanon branches. They rang a bell and shouted spells. Then they made Zabar go through the fire, and only after that the Khagan was born in the sky, received the ambassador. Dizabul Khan received Zemar Byzantine ambassador at the foot of the Altai Mountains, Altin Tagi.
У подножья Алтайских гор, Алтын Тага.
They had the cult of mountains and caves. Actually, it was the cult of their ancestors because the mountains were sacred places. According to Menander, Istemi's seat was at the foot of Ektag mountain, which means golden mountain in Hellenic. Presumably, he wrote about Belge-khagan Mount. Zemar was surprised that the Khagan had so many marquees. Zema had reasons to be surprised. Even the diplomats used by the Byzantine luxury didn't expect to see so great luxury here. For example, there was a moving throne of the Khan's chariot. The Khagan was inside the marquee on the gold throne having 2 wheels. A horse pulled the throne when needed. Menander said. Then Zema said, "Our great king wishes you to be always happy and wants you to love Romans and favor them. Always win victory against your enemies and collect treasures." They spent the whole day feasting in this beautifully decorated silken marquee. They drank wine, but it was different from ours because there are no grapevines in the Turkic land. Menander Protector. The fest continued for a few days, but in different marquees, which were beautifully decorated too. Dizabul's throne was different, but it was made of gold too. There were a lot of gold there. There were jugs, asporiums, barrels, pillars, and a golden bed, supported by 4 gold peacocks. There were gold things in carts, and he said it was impossible to describe that. Jewelry was there too.
Разные украшения лежали.
Dizabul demonstrated how rich he was. He presented him with a concubine and offered to join him during his campaign against the Persians. A part of the ambassador's caravan with presents from the Turkic peoples returned home. The Byzantine commander and his retinue went together with Dizabul. Chapter 3. The Union of Powerful Countries. Dizabul started a campaign against the Persians, and Zema was with him. On the way, they stopped in a place called Talas, and they met the Persian embassy there. Menander Protector. It's considered the first mention of Taras. This city was ruled by the Turkic Khaganate in the 6th century. Where was the gate? The city of Taras had 4 gates. The main gate was in the east. It was somewhere in this place. The honorable guests went through this gate. They were the Istemi-khagan, also known as Dizabul, and the Romans and Byzantians together with Zema. An ambassador's caravan came to Taras from Persia. They had found out that the Turkic ruler started a campaign and wanted to come to agreement with him. Dizabul invited the Roman and Persian ambassadors. He paid attention to the Romans and gave them places of honor. At the same time, he complained about the Persians, and they said they had offended him, which is why he was going to wage a war against them. A Persian ambassador forgot about their role to eat in silence and started talking quickly, insisting that Dizabul's reproach was unfair. Menander Protector. The Persian ambassador forgot about the rules of etiquette and spoke boldly in front of the great Khagan. This scandal emphasizes the fact that Dizabul had known the Persian ambassadors had been waiting for him in Taras. They all arrived in Taras. According to the Orientalists, ambassadors came there. Khagans were clever, so they were the first to meet with them on the border. Due to the inconsiderate actions of the Persian ambassador, it was impossible to prevent war and changed Dizabul's plans to invite Zema to fight against the Persians. It seems that the Khagan was enraged and decided to punish the Persians on his own. The Turkic ruler established friendship with Constantinople and let Zema go. He sent another ambassador together with him to Rome because Mania had died. The new ambassador was called Tagma. Mania's son was with him. Although he was an adolescent, he was a worthy person. This young man was as dignified as his father because Mania had been devoted to his Dizabul and close to him. Menander Protector. He and his heirs organized that. They were enterprising people, and it was natural that the Turkic Khagans appreciated that. The union between Byzantium and the Khaganate was created, and Zema returned to Constantinople. At the same time, the Turkic people conquered a few rich Persian cities, and the Shah of Iran agreed to pay tribute of 40,000 gold coins and not to hinder the silk trade route anymore. They made those who had heads bow their heads, and they made those who had knees kneel down. Their people settled in the east and west. They were wise and manly Khagans. Inscription on monument to Kyul-Tegin. Epilogue. Eternal values. There are stories about eternal El. Eternal is life itself. The echo of legends born in the steppe was inscribed on stone. There is the blue sky and the earth, and a person between them. The strength is in unity, loyalty, and wisdom. This is the eternal truth. May the Turkic peoples not disappear. May they be a people, they said. The formation of the Great Turkic El centralized state led to the formation of the large steppe community. The nomadic and the settled worlds started continuous interaction with each other. After that, they could not develop their own any longer. From In the Stream of History book by Nur Sultan Nazarbayev.